Good morning, and thank you for being here at the Construction Rollforming Show in such peculiar times. My name is Sharon Thatcher. I'm the managing editor of Rollforming Magazine. On behalf of the magazine and publisher Shieldwell Media, I would like to introduce your speaker for this morning, Thomas Schwarzer with ASC Machine Tools, presenting which rollforming line fits my needs the best.
So there are 6 questions that basically always come up. The first one is, what is the linear footage you are expecting to run every year? Very important question. I don't really want to know how much you're going to run, but I need an idea. Okay? Are you going to be a 500,000-600,000 linear foot shop? Are you going to try to go for 1.5–2 million linear feet, which is already pretty serious? Yeah, that's a very nice house number if you make like $5 million in panel sales. Or are you going to be, most of the time the name of the customer gives it away. Anyhow, are you going to be somebody who runs 5–10 million linear feet on your panel line? The next question is how many profiles you want to run. There are a lot of people who buy panel lines that only produce 1 profile. Certain people want to produce 2 profiles. Then there are businesses who look into the future. They might want to use 1 panel line to run 4, 5, 6, 7 profiles down the line. So there's some investment to be made right at the start. And that panel line can basically be good for 5–6 panels, like panels that don't run every day, where you don't save millions of linear feet, but you just want 1 panel line to accomplish running multiple profiles. The profile shape. Profiles come in all kind of sorts and flavors. One of my favorites is, we just want to run an egg panel. My 11 years, I found out there is probably, at least in my territory, about 16 to 18 different egg panels. Everybody has a little different bend here, or a little bit deeper minor, or wants to have a 7-degree break in the major rib. There's so many differences in flavors, what people want to do. Typically, an egg panel coil has a 40 7/8 wide coil width. That's the most efficient, that's readily available. I also have customers who use 41.5 because they want to run a longer overlap. They want to run deeper minors. They're going to have more roll forming passes. So if you know which profile shape, the best would be if you already have a sample or maybe a profile drawing, even a sketch would help. And profile shapes will also determine, are you going to be able to go with a precut line or a postcard line, what's actually the best for your panel. And I will always try to explain you, we build both of the lines, pre and postcard, so I can tell you the advantages of precut or postcard for your specific panel. Sometimes you might not be able to choose. Floor space. Most of the time when I get a call, I don't really know how big your building is. I might have never been there. I can't really picture where you want to put the panel line, but footprint can be a concern. We build panel lines that are short as 40 feet and your panel comes out, so you might be good with 80–90 feet along a wall. If you go into flying cutoff lines, you for sure need a stacker because the panels come too fast to be stacked by hand. It's also a safety thing to go with a stacker in that case. All of a sudden we're talking 120, 130 feet. So to kind of know how much floor space you have and also what your vision is, not today, but maybe in 3–4 years from now, would be kind of nice to know, can also help me to determine which panel line is the best for you. Quality and safety. I get confronted quite a lot of times about quality of the machines. We got certain quality standards. We use cast stands. All of our machines are OSHA safety guarded. And also quality when it comes to what happens if something breaks down, do I get replacement parts? The $80,000 China panel roll forming line might be the great success story for the beginning. As soon as something doesn't work and you try to find replacement parts, it's going to be maybe a different story. The last one is budget. We're also going to go through budget. It's about your money. Like, what are your plans? How much money you got? How much you want to finance? So, linear footage per year. Just so on the left side, you'd see a typical feet to stop pre-cut panel line. On the right side, you see a flying postcard line running 400 feet a minute. So, and by 400 feet a minute, I really mean 40 10-footers per minute. Those are basically the two worlds. One is going to give you about 100, 110 linear feet net throughput, the other one 400. In between are many flavors. You might not get all the flavors from all roll forming manufacturers, but that's basically where it's around. It's like about 100 feet net to about 400 feet net. So in between those two is a lot of variation between all roll forming companies. Doesn't matter if you're looking at an MRS or Bradbury or Hayes or ASC, it doesn't really matter. It's all gonna be in between that range. And we gotta find out where you fit the best. If it's a feet to stop line, I mostly tell customers speed is always great. Like people are looking for speed. Like I get people calling me, I need 200 feet a minute, I want 250 feet a minute, but they might not even need it. Like it all depends how your flavor is, how many jobs do you do a day, how many coil changeovers do you do a day. We have customers sometimes who look for 200 feet per minute, but it would be way better instead of making the line faster because they change coils. I have customers who change coils up to 25 times a day in the busy season. But they have a single arm uncoiler. And I know their forklift driver is the best forklift driver ever, right? He's very efficient, he pulls the coil off, he brings the next one on. There's no time being lost, you know, we are like really record time, yeah. It's all great. But in general, a single arm uncoiler, to take a coil off, set it aside, pick up the next one, put it on and thread it in, you might be around 5 to 7 minutes, depending on how you set up, if he has to bring the coil away and in. So what I tell people is, first of all, a coil car can help. Meaning the operator can prepare the panel line and somebody already picks the coil off the coil car and presents the new coil, so the operator doesn't have to go and do all that. The machine operator basically focuses on the machine, gets his paperwork done, maybe has to adjust the line because he runs different material thickness, he can focus on that. Another thing a little bit cheaper is a double arm uncoiler. A double arm uncoiler is not cheap, but I'm going to show you an example later where you might consider it. If you go with one of our standard Alpha Series panel lines, and I'm just general talking, a panel line like that might cost today $200,000 just to have a straight price, okay? If you go with a 200 feet per minute line, the first step up, it might cost you about $250,000, $280,000 more to get 200 feet per minute net throughput, which can be the right answer, but it all depends how much are you actually manufacturing. Yeah, how is your job structure? How long are your jobs? Are you going to be able to combine white coils, green coil jobs, red coil jobs, so you have long runs, or are you actually switching over as the job comes? So I just made a little example, and it's never 100% right because you gotta, I don't know, take in consideration how really the shop is organized and so on. But for somebody who starts up and does like 7 jobs a day and they are all about 1,000 linear feet long, if you go with a feet to stop line or a 200 feet per minute line, or you go with a feet to stop line and have a double arm uncoiler because you spend more money, there's not really too much difference in net running time. It's not considering getting coil and stuff like that. Just the net running time is not really so, it's an hour 40 or an hour and a half and an hour and 17 minutes. So a feet to stop line is fine. If somebody produces 15,000 linear feet a day, which is, for me, considered being very busy. I mean, that's when you have 15 good days in a month, that's 225,000 linear feet. If you have 8 good months, that's 2 million linear feet. That's pretty busy. So if he changes 12 times coil a day and has like 15 jobs to run, you know, a couple can be combined, but changes over 12 times coil, we're actually going to see that the line in the middle running 200 feet per minute net speed is going to take about 2.5 hours. But a feet to stop line that has a double arm uncoiler and saves you time on every coil change takes the same amount of time. For somebody like this, both machines can be the right answer. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Both machines could be right. The only thing I tell you is that machine costs about $90,000 to $100,000 more. This costs $250,000 to $300,000 more. But we are getting the same time result. So not always roll former speed going to 200, 250 feet per minute might be the right answer for you. A double arm uncoiler is an expensive piece of equipment. It probably costs about $90,000 to $100,000 more than your single arm, like on top. But it might be the right investment for you. And depending on if you do a lot of coil changes or not, that might be something you should look into first before you go into higher speed. and your operator is gonna love you because he can load a coil while the machine is running. If you got two guys on the machine or a helper guy, you can already load and unload coil while you're running a job. So that downtime gets very, very slim. On a double arm uncoiler, the double arm turns around in about 15-20 seconds, and you're ready to present the coil. Everything, the tape is already off, everything is off. The coil is ready to go into the roll forming line. Might it be precut or postcut, it doesn't really matter. But the coil is already ready to be presented and paid into the panel line, which on a single arm you rewind, then you put the tape around it, then you gotta take it off, then you gotta unload it, put it somewhere, then you gotta come back, put the next coil on. So considering that time, I said it's a time saving of 5 minutes. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 7. Depends how good your forklift driver is, how you're organized. If you got 2 people on the line, just 1. But a double arm uncoiler can be really a real time saver. If you're one of those guys, like big corporations running 50,000 or more linear feet a day, then we're gonna get really into high speed. And then when you see the feet to stop line net is already at 8 hours. That's not considering getting coil and everything. So a feet to stop line is for sure not the way to go. The 200 feet per minute line could be still okay. Running net 5 hours, if you're good organized, you might do that in a shift, but it will be very, very sweaty for you. The 400 feet per minute line, hopefully having long runs of colors, will be the way to go. Again, that's for big companies. I mean, one of the big companies, for example, around here, I don't know if you're from around here, but a company like Menards will be a company that can run a panel line at 400 feet per minute. Just because they got the demand and can run a lot of same colors behind each other. Second point is number of profiles. We call them single height, dual height, and subplated. Some people might call it single level, dual level, and rafted. Some people might call it whatever. It's basically always the same. You can have a panel line that has one set of stands on it, typically a shorter set of stands for just running one profile on your panel line, and a dual or double level or whatever it's called from somebody else has 2 profiles on it. You typically have 2 different heights of stands to have 2 different elevations for the panels. And subplated or rafted is basically the possibility to take all the tooling with stands and shafts off and add a different set of stands and shafts and subplates and run a totally different profile. Utilizing the same uncoiler, the same shear, might it be precut or postcut. Single height is probably the most common. Dual height is becoming more popular for egg and R panel combinations, for example. Subplated, because it comes at a higher price tag and it's not going to come on an economy line or like a lower price line. Subplated is very awesome but costs more money upfront investment. Probably about, depending on the speed, it's starting probably at about $100,000 to $150,000 just to get started to be subplated. You're going to have a different drive input on the machine, the plates, and you always have basically nearly a roll former you take off and put back on. But I got customers who run 7 profiles on the same panel line. The advantage is they can take their subplates off and store them wherever. Changeover time for them from one profile to another can be anywhere between half an hour to an hour, but they utilize the same machine just with one footprint in the building to run 6 to 7 different profiles. They typically run Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, the same profiles. They don't run it every day, and they go by demand, right? Single height profile, just a couple pictures. Single height machines can be, of course, precut or postcut. It all depends what kind of flavor you like. We build them both. A subplated line, you're going to see the drive beam up there. That's basically you're connected to the motor to drive all the tooling passes. That's basically what the extra cost is together with the plates to make a machine subplated, besides the technical things, but that's majorly the difference. Also a profile change or profile shape. Can you go, some of you might recognize some profiles that you already run or that you're looking at. Can I run precut or postcut? Like, what's my answer? Well, the answer is not a general answer. There are certain panels you're basically free to choose. like an egg or an R panel or 5V or panels like that, they can run pre-cut and post-cut. There are certain things you might consider about spring back or flare, but generally they can run pre or post-cut. And we sell both all the time, so you decide what you like. There are panels that are only going to run pre-cut, especially the ones that need to be notched or punched while the strip is still flat. Again, it's not our specific term, it's like for every roll forming company the same. If you need to notch something in any kind of way, might it be a flying shear or a feet to stop shear, or you need to punch holes, it needs to be in the flat before the profile is formed. And you can't change that, so you might have to go with a pre-cut line on this profile. Another consideration is hidden corners that on a post-cut machine would be just crushed and kind of wouldn't look good. You gotta go pre-cut. Advantages of pre-cut. Pre-cut can be solving a lot of problems that you have, especially when you start up. It can run you a panel, it can run you a flat sheet, and one of our lines could actually slit and also produce trim blanks, all on the same machine, which is very great. It's very efficient for initial startup. If you start your first shop and you're not in the business yet, a panel line can be price-wise very attractive, pre-cut-wise, to produce all those pieces for you. And at the beginning, when you're not that busy, it will fulfill all your needs. A couple of years from then, depending how you develop, you might have to add additional pieces of equipment because your panel line will be too busy to just do flat sheets and slitting trim and panels. But at the beginning, it might be very good for you money-wise, and you can invest later. Post-cut only. There are certain panels, some might be specific to us, but most of the time the industry is pretty sure about running certain panels post-cut. Corrugated is one of them. I know a lot of people look for corrugated panels. It's for years been like architectural-wise required to have a nice corrugated panel that's going to be applied to a building, and we need corrugated. Corrugated has something that not many panels have. It doesn't have any corners. A corrugated panel is really just a sinus wave going up and down. There's a lot of roller dice in that tooling to basically contain those round ribs. And we will only run in post-cut, besides a 1/4 inch, a very, very flat one. They might have to go post-cut. Post-cut is also very common for very deep profiles where you gotta form a lot and swing a lot, which is tendency to spring back a lot, depending on material thickness, the hardness of the material. So post-cut can be for certain panels the only answer, or at least the only answer you get from us. And you can try it with somebody else and see how the answers are. Typical advantages post-cut, avoid spring back. On a post-cut machine, you're going to form a continuous strip. There's not a lead edge that goes through the tooling and a tail end that goes through tooling. It's just a continuous strip. So typically on a panel line that runs post-cut, you avoid spring back. The panel has to fit the shear blades, but you avoid spring back, so you basically get the straightest part that you're looking for. Perfect for shorter panels. Depending on the setup, you can run a couple inches if you want to of panel lengths, but a lot of people are after 1-footers because they're gonna buy one of those standalone soffit panel machines and just, you know, make some lancing in 1-footers and sell it as soffit, which can be very, very profitable. So for short panels and long panels, you can run all of those. On feet to stop lines, you're gonna generally get on a post-cut line a shorter footprint. Which brings me to the next point, floor space. Again, I don't know how your building is going to look like. I don't know what your expansion plans are in the future. Are you going to build additions? How long is the plan? Where are you going to try to store your coil? Are you going to have a multi-trim roll former or just a folder? Are you going to have a cut-to-length slitting line? What is your vision? I mean, to sell a machine today is like awesome, right? For every sales guy, it's great to sell a machine. But it would be also nice to sell you another machine in 2 years and another one in 4, and then in 10 years we look back and have a lot of equipment from our company in your plant. That would be tremendous. So that's why I always try to find out what's your future plan. Not only what are you gonna do today and what can I do for you today, and we're gonna do a quick sale. That normally doesn't really work for the future. On our precut and postcard lines, let's say like in Alpha series, for example, you're looking at 40 feet. That's very short, that's very efficient. If you got a building that's 120, 150 feet long, the panel line is going to fit in there perfectly. If you go with a precut line, one of our medium dual high line, they're going to be 60 feet long because they have a precut conveyor. So all of a sudden 60 plus maybe maximum 40, 45 feet afterward, you're already at over 100 feet. Might not fit your very small building. Then you want to add a stacker. A lot of people at the beginning when they buy a panel line don't invest into a stacker, and I don't think it's necessarily needed to have a stacker. It adds some kind of safety aspect to it, some automation to it, depending on how deep you invest into the stacking system. But it's going to add for sure footprint that is blocked for everything else. So for people who put a panel line in the middle of their building and you put a stacker in there, there's no forklift going to drive through it. So to consideration. When you get to very high speed lines, we basically recommend a stacking system. It's just a safety thing, it's liability. You can run a 200-300 feet per minute line without a stacker, but we don't recommend it. It's just at some point an accident about to happen, so we would like to supply a stacking system. But then you look at 110 feet of panel lines. Always there, always blocked. And so it, basically from the shortest to the longest line, you gotta tell me how your building looks like, what kind of footprint you expect, or what's good for you, what would work. Next point, quality and safety. Of course, that's a big one. Sometimes my customers not really taken very seriously. Every manufacturer has his own little things that he does different, like for example, us using cast stands or things like that, but really look for the quality of the panel line. I mean, not specifically to us, but make yourself aware of what you're getting into. I had customers who bought whole setups from overseas for $80,000, $90,000, and within 6 months, all of a sudden, everybody was very afraid if this equipment will still work tomorrow, and if it doesn't work tomorrow, what are we going to do then? And so, it might be the right decision to get started because you don't have more money. I understand that, but at the end of the day, I wrote an article about OSHA too, for example, things like safety guarding. Some people don't consider safety guarding, they just take it off, put it aside. We try to make it very easy to have swing guards so you can access the rollformer very, very easy, so it's not a drag every time to open this thing and get in there or take a panel off. The safety of your employees should be one of your first priorities, maybe even priority number one. If somebody works on this line day to day, metal is very, very dangerous. Exiting the rollforming line, being in the rollforming line, there were accidents, not on our lines, where people just stepped into a line and wanted to fix something and somebody turned it on. Things like that are not possible, not allowed. We do everything to protect your workers on our lines. It starts with gaps where you can grab through into the machine. There are certain OSHA requirements, how far you have to be back from every drive system on the machine, so you can't touch it while the machine is running. We're guarding all the machines, so as soon as you open up a safety guard, the machine won't run. Obviously on the left model, it's not really available. I see a lot on the cheaper pieces of equipment that you don't really know where you're at. Like there's no micrometer dials on the top. You don't even know how much the pass is open or closed. Normally you don't get a tooling arrangement drawing with it, so if a roller die wears off, you don't even know where to get a new one. Yeah. And from an electrical standard, if a part fails in the left machine, are you really sure you're going to get a replacement part for it? And where do you get it from? And who gets it? Maybe you don't have a maintenance manager because they're just starting up, so it's all going to be on you. Warranty-wise, I can't speak for them how much warranty they give. We give a warranty of 1 year on all of our panel line equipment. And other rollforming lines, 1 year warranty. I don't know if you got any warranty with what's showing up in the container. I have no idea. Those are things to be considered. And McAfee security scan right now is not available. Spare parts is a big thing. Spare parts is a big thing. We got customers that have panel lines for like 40, 50 years. Where it sometimes gets a little bit challenging to find the right replacement part, but let's say you got a panel line and after 5 years the drive goes out, it's kind of nice to call somebody who understands what you need, can open up the drawing, gets you that part, UPS red next morning by 8 o'clock, and you might be up and running again an hour or two later. Those are the moments where, for us, made in the USA, you can call us, we're gonna be there, we're gonna send you the spare part like this. Even if we have to steal it out of a machine that we just assembled because it's a special part, it doesn't matter. We do everything to get you back up and running as fast as we can. And in most instances, it can be basically the next day or the next morning. That's also something to consider. Roll forming line is down. The supplier stands there with his trailer, or the contractor tries to pick up his job, and you gotta tell him, sorry, it doesn't work. And he says, so are you gonna get it tomorrow morning because I need it? And you say, I don't know, maybe next week. That's not gonna happen many times, because then they go to the next guy who's gonna supply the next panel. And so uptime is a very, very big thing. And that sometimes gets overlooked. I know I'm not available, or I can't spend your money. And you always got to see what's available for you, right? Money-wise, what kind of loans you can get. But keep that in mind. As soon as you start running, one of your biggest problems is to actually keep running, or not problems, but like one of your highest priorities is to keep running a good quality every day, because no contractor, no customer expects you to be down. That normally is not allowed. Like, nobody likes that. And the last thing, I could also say it doesn't interest me, but it interests me is the budget. Starting up a new panel roll forming operation, I mean, equipment is important, and I sell equipment, but I'm well aware of the fact that besides the panel roll forming line and maybe a slitting line separately, and you need a folder or brake from somebody, maybe used, maybe new. Of course you need an upender. Some people use a tractor tire, but like an upender is safety-wise the way to go. You maybe want to go with a trim roll former, but you also need coil inventory. If people buy equipment from me for $500,000, they're probably in for coil inventory for $500,000 too. Maybe $300,000. You gotta have that money. And of course you need to find a building, and you need to find workers, and you need to buy forklifts, and you need to buy insurance and power, and hopefully you have power at the property that you're looking at, otherwise you're gonna be in for money there. So there's this whole big sum of money, and you gotta tell me what you can actually afford. We can dream all the dreams from all the panel lines and trim roll formers and everything that we have, but we really gotta see what's really available for you. How much do you qualify for? What's really your vision for the next couple of years? Maybe it's good to spend a little bit more money right now. For example, one of the major things is a panel line is a given, right? Everybody needs a panel line, and everybody needs a folder too. Without a folder, you can't make trim. Without trim, life gets difficult. You need to slit somehow, maybe coil up, and you find somewhere used or so on, but those trim roll formers over there, they're basically the money maker. It happens a lot of times that people buy a panel line and say, well, trim, I'm gonna wait. For panels, the profit is way different than for trim. The profit on trim is higher than on panels. You're gonna make more profit on trim profiles, and it will help you to actually pay the other pieces of equipment that you bought. So if you're available, if it's possible for you to basically invest into a trim reformer right from the start, it's gonna help you to pay off the whole bundle of machinery that you bought way, way faster. Again, I'm not gonna push you into it, but if it's a possibility to start with a trim reformer and you can afford it, start with a trim reformer too. Not only the panel line, not only the folder, it's gonna pay out. It's gonna take your folder break time down by like 40, 50, 60%. It's gonna go way, way faster. You can use your 80 KSI material without cracking paint on the hams, and it has a lot of other benefits, but it's basically about profit margin. But this can be a lot of money. Equipment-wise, I can help you. Building-wise, I can't help you. Power-wise, also not. I don't sell forklifts. But you gotta keep all that in consideration. So there's a lot to think about when you start up panel roll forming.